Welcome to the Grounded in Peace podcast, where we explore what it means to cultivate peace within ourselves while working toward a more just and harmonious world. Join us as we uncover stories, practices, and ideas that inspire grounded collaborative action for lasting change.
We're joined today by Ruth Cutcher, who is the recruiting manager for Quaker Voluntary Service. So we're going to talk about what the Quaker Voluntary Service is and learn all kinds of new things about it and learn how you can get involved. Welcome, Ruth.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, tell us everything you want to tell us about Quaker Voluntary Service. I take it you're looking for volunteers.
We are pretty much always looking for volunteers, yes. We operate in 4 different cities in the U.S. We're in Boston, Philly, Minneapolis, and Portland, Oregon. And we offer people a chance postgraduate to do some work in those communities and also to experiment with intentional community. Our fellows live in housing that we provide, and they share a house, and we support them through their journey through the 9.5-month program in transitioning from being a group of strangers who are just getting to know each other to potentially navigating conflict as they get to know each other very well. And then by the end of the 9.5-month program, they're usually pretty good friends. And they end up being like a lifelong network to each other. So we're excited about that aspect of the program, that it involves intentional community. As a Quaker organization, we feel like community building is one of our superpowers. We know about navigating conflict. We know about how to approach relationships from a spirit of love and compassion. And we have a lot of tools for helping people learn how to navigate that relationship building and community building. And we also, from the fellow standpoint, they're often coming to us seeing the job aspect of the program being the most interesting to them. We place fellows in full-time positions with social justice-oriented nonprofits where they do really responsible, cool work that builds their resumes and builds their job skill sets, and where they can also really make a difference.
That's neat. So, and you're on the campus today of Ashland University, hoping to talk to some students and get them. Is this tailor-made for young adults? Is that the population that comprises the volunteers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yes, it is a program specifically for young adults. Our age range is 21 to 30. So a lot of the people who apply to do our program are just fresh out of college. This is their first full-time job potentially. But there's also a significant number of people doing our program who are kind of transitioning, like they've been in the workforce for a few years, but maybe they want to go to grad school, maybe they want to do a pivot, or try out life in a big city or a different city, and they see doing a program like this as a strategy to investigate their options in one of our cities.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And do you draw, I mean, you're here in Ohio recruiting for, you mentioned the 4 sites, and they're not here, but so this involves, potentially moving to a unknown area and getting involved with organizations that maybe they've never been involved with before. So it's quite adventurous.
Totally. So it is adventurous. And it's also supported at the same time. Like, if we were to have a scale of adventurousness, that would be like 10 is the most adventurous. Like, you just walk out your front door saying, I'm going to have an adventure. This is not that, because there's a support staff, there's a program, there's a house, there's a budget. Like, it's pretty responsible. I would say it's like a 5 on the adventure scale. You are still definitely leaving the Shire, but you're not like going off into uncharted territory. It's a program, it's established. But as far as other qualities that would help a person feel successful doing this program, I think being open to learning about collaboration and cooperative living, I think, is a really big one. We're raised in this culture. We're sort of acculturated to a type of individualism that this program sort of pushes against.
Yeah, sure.
So we're not for that rugged individualism of just like do everything on your own. It's more like how can you lean back into community and accept the help and support of the people around you. So there's that wanting to be collaborative, and then that also kind of points to some vulnerability that we see our most successful fellows are willing to share vulnerably about the experience they're having so that the community can step up and like guide them or help them through what they're encountering.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I mean, I just think about intentional communities I'm familiar with, and conflict resolution is an important element. And, you think about how much we go through life, probably most of us, trying to avoid that kind of vulnerability. And so we can avoid that kind of conflict. How much of a time commitment is this program?
Yeah, such a good question. So it's 9.5 months. So there's that level of time commitment. But then when people are in the program, they will have a full-time job. So that's somewhere between 32 and 40 hours a week. It depends on the site. And then there are, it's hard to say like obligations. There are activities outside of the job that are a part of that community building and relationship building aspect of the program. I have heard one of the city coordinators says that it's about a 60-hour-a-week commitment when you look at the job plus the outside things. But when I'm saying the outside things, it's like, let's have a game night, and choosing to be available for game night, or let's go for a walk, or let's go see a movie, and being available for that. It's not like, ho hum, I've got 12-hour days scheduled for the next 9.5 months. Some of the things that are outside of the job assignment are actually fun, we hope, and restorative,
Yeah. So is this job, so you're looking for volunteers who aren't paid, but you said everyone has a job. So how do people how is this funded? I mean, I'm trying to imagine taking 9.5 months off. How do people make this work?
Yeah, such a good question. So we pay for all of the living expenses. So we provide housing. All of the utilities are paid. There's a food budget. There's a transportation allowance. There are equity funds, a Black Hair Care Fund, and a $250 a month stipend that our idea is that should be for fun things, not it. We would be sad if we found out that the majority of that stipend was going to, say, somebody's cell phone bill or something like that. So we try to make it so that people feel supported while they're in the program. And the experience I've heard from quite a few fellows is that their time doing QVS is maybe their first time as an adult not feeling food insecurity and not feeling housing insecurity. Because for that 9.5 months, they're in the house. We're paying the bills.
Right. It's all taken care of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a sort of, I'm sure it's not a whole lot like a monastic community, but in the sense of being a community and also, not having to worry about those things, but having a firm commitment to that community, it seems very similar. Are they, do you take non-Quakers?
Oh, absolutely. That's such a good question. It is called Quaker Voluntary Service, so there are definitely Quaker vibes. But I would say the majority of people who apply to our program, the majority of people who do the program are not Quaker. And we are kind of most closely aligned with unprogrammed Quakers, which that's a term that not everyone would know, but unprogrammed Quakers are the ones who sit in silence as their pattern of worship. There aren't really pastors or hymns or, like a program when we gather for worship. And we hope that within the umbrella of that pattern of worship that people of all faith traditions or potentially no faith tradition would feel comfortable and feel, accepted and welcome within the unprogrammed Quaker side of the denomination. I've heard people say things like, I'm a Buddhist and a Quaker, or I'm Jewish and a Quaker. And that's totally acceptable.
That works.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's really neat. And so can you say more about the organizations, or maybe mention a few of the organizations that you're calling them fellows, that fellows would be involved with? And maybe is there some, do you try to place, if someone says, I'm really interested in, I don't even know, like, some kind of feeding, ministry, or like animal welfare, or, or some kind of peacemaking thing, do you try to match them up with the organization that they'd be working with? Yeah,
100%. We definitely work with folks and try to get them in site placements that will be meaningful for them. The sooner they apply, the more likely they will be to have a placement that is lined up with exactly what they want to do. And we have a wide variety of site placements. There are similar service programs that work just in like the education sector or just in policy and advocacy or something like that. We kind of cross all of those different sectors. So folks might work with immigrants. They might work like one of our big organizations that we work with consistently in Boston is the Massachusetts Bail Fund. That helps keep people out of the carceral system. We do have education placements. We have a lot of placements that are sort of adjacent to social work. So if people are thinking that might be a career path for them, but they don't necessarily want to go out and get their MSW before finding out if it's going to be a good fit, they can do a program like this and see, will that kind of work fit them? And maybe even experiment with different populations that they would be interested in working with. We work with organizations that help people who are experiencing houselessness, people who are navigating the healthcare system.
Wow.
We do also work with some Quaker organizations like American Friends Service Committee and Pendle Hill, which is a Quaker retreat center. There's a wide variety of different organizations.
Yeah. And so this would be the job. And would they be placed, are they placed with that organization for the full 9.5 months, or is there some kind of rotation?
Yeah, the way the model works is ideally people should be in one site for the 9.5 months. And we go through a discernment process and an interview process so that the fellow, a potential fellow, has the opportunity to have several conversations with the potential site placement and make sure that, that's going to be a good fit for them. It does occasionally happen where people are in a site and things change or they're not satisfied with it. And we would change the site placement in that event, but it's not really our model to have people rotating through a bunch of different placements.
Yeah. Yeah. So, 9.5 months placed in one place, ideally, is quite a bit of time to really learn what goes on there and to be of some use.
Right. Yeah, they can kind of settle in and get used to the rhythms of that job. The other cool feature of the program, without having to rotate through different job assignments, fellows can also experience the site placements of their housemates. So they hear about it just incidentally, socially living with people. But then in our program, every other week, people take a day off of work we call it a QVS day. And some of those QVS days are used by the fellows to take everybody on a field trip to their site location and see what work is done there and meet the people. It kind of helps folks develop a professional network through the course of their 9.5 months. And also, kind of get a sketch of what the nonprofit industrial complex looks like in that city.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, that's really good.
yeah.
Yeah, and I could see this. I mean, I'm thinking about what a neat thing this can be for you just graduate from college and you've before starting, your career and, once people start their careers, often they're kind of locked in or, it's just kind of harder to do something different, for a while, or maybe till retirement. But there's a window there, of do you get, am I thinking of that right? Do you get people who are in that stage of life? Maybe they're not all college graduates, but here we are at a college. So I'm thinking,
Right.
do you get folks who they've just graduated from college, they're putting their career on hold for, a bit, and
Right.
they're spending time with you?
Yep. I would say the majority of people are in that position of they just got a really amazing degree. They spent 4 years really paying attention to all the work they needed to do to get their degree, and then they've graduated and are like, oh my, now I have another problem to solve. How do I find my place in this, the job stream? So, the majority of people we work with are recent college graduates. And that's another cool aspect of the program is how fun is that to think of leaving college and being able to live in a house with other people your same age who are in navigating the same transition of we just did this really hard thing and now we're about to launch ourselves into the next hard thing and let's take a beat and figure out how can we do this intentionally.
Right. And I can imagine too if you're in college. Well, I'm thinking about my own experience in college, and I had roommates and housemates and that kind of thing. So I lived in community, and then, and actually I had housemates for a couple of years afterward. But then, after that, we tend to kind of reduce the size. People get married or whatever, but maybe they're on their own too. Kind of lose some of that element of community, and this seems like a great way of extending that kind of communal experience if someone has had something like that in their college years.
Mm-hmm.
That's really neat.
Totally.
Have you seen, do you have any stories or just kind of reports on people finding their way, or finding a new direction or a new love? I'd like to think it's never too late to find a new passion, but I know that's not maybe the ultimate goal of all of this, but I could see that happening. Do you have reports of that?
Totally. I know of quite a few fellows who ended up really loving the city where they served. Quite a few ended up getting hired by the organization that was their site placement. From the point of view of that nonprofit, they're like, wow, I really get to know this person over the course of 9.5 months. They're not hiring an unknown. They're hiring this person that's been working there and already performing. So, so for some folks, they're going into it thinking, I'll try out Boston for 9.5 months. And then they end up I've lived in Boston for 10 years now.
Yeah, I can see that.
There are, when you say new loves, last summer there was a whole crop of QVSers who got married, which was so adorable that they served together, 5 years ago or 8 years ago, and now they're getting married and they have QVS weddings. They invite all the fellows who served maybe even in different cities and different years.
What a great way of starting off a service-oriented partnership.
Right. Yeah.
On the right foot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, how could, if people are listening to this and they're like, ooh, that sounds interesting, I'm interested. Should they contact you? I just Googled it and there's a website, so that's good. But what would you say is a good way to take that next step?
Yeah, well, I know that there are folks who really like to do their research, and we are on all the social media channels, and I think it's a really smart thing to do. Check out our Instagram, check out, we're on Handshake too. We've got a lot of our site placements are listed on Handshake. And then, definitely our website, www.quakervoluntaryservice.org.
Okay.
And then I am the recruiting manager, so I'm often the first kind of point of contact that people have with QVS, and I'm always like super happy to meet with people. You can find my information on the website. Like, one of the joys of my job is meeting people who are thinking about doing this program. So
yeah, that's good. I mean, are there common questions you get from people who are seeking, maybe we covered them all in our conversation. I don't know.
Yeah, we covered a lot of them. Yeah, I get a lot of the day in the life. I think there are people who, when I was talking about the adventurousness scale, they're not at a 10 and they want to kind of feel out like how adventurous is this. So, they ask me about a day in the life, and it's really hard to answer that because every city has a different flavor. Every site placement is different. But there's this supportive community that you mentioned. You're going to be a part of a supportive, intentional community where you're living with folks, and there's certain things that are just taken care of. You don't have to worry about or think about. Right.
And it sounds like fun is encouraged, and community life and friendship and things like that are encouraged.
Yeah. So it's adventurous, but it's not over the top adventurous.
Good. Well, thank you, Ruth. I really appreciate you coming in today and talking to us about QVS.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. This was really fun.